In a minute, we'll be spending a day with the man who looks after the cars of Pink Floyd's drummer, Nick Mason, and looking over a used MG. But first, Tristram finds out how to get your hands on the world's most desirable cars for a day.
A Ferrari is special. No other make of supercar turns heads like it. This stunning 348 not only looks unique, it's hand-built to the highest standards using the finest materials. With a 3.4-litre V8 engine, it's one of the fastest cars on the road.
I wanted to drive a Ferrari since I was old enough to drive, since I was 18. I sat in a friend's sports car, which is an MGB, and thought it was wonderful, and then got interested in sports cars, and it's always been my dream to drive a Ferrari.
And if you, like Sandra, fancy the best but aren't loaded, there is a solution. If you're over 25 and agree to the £3,000 insurance excess, you can rent one from a company like Modena in Birmingham. OK, at £500 a day, renting a Ferrari isn't cheap, but you'll look $1 million.
Most of our customers are corporate work, I would say. It's companies rewarding their employees for reaching sales targets, top achievers. We do a fair bit of work with the expatriates going back to UK. They have the car for 2-3 weeks in the summer.
So what other special hire cars are there? How about this fantastic Mercedes SLK? It costs £35,000 to buy and there's a 2-year waiting list. But hire cars are available now. This one from Budget Rent-A-Car costs £185 a day. The price is worth it for the roof design alone. The SLK is easy to drive because it's an automatic, and the supercharged engine has as much power as you'll need. Something with a bit more character is this classic Lamborghini Miura. You can hire one through the Classic Car Club, which offers a timeshare type service. For an annual fee of £1,750, you get points which you can trade against a selection of great cars. The cars cost more or less points depending on the season and time of week. Charges work out between £10 and £250 a day. Bespoke Car Hire will also hire you a classic on a daily basis. This 1983 3-litre Porsche 911 Cabriolet looks great, goes fast, and a day's drive is £235. But fast cars are hard to drive, as a few unlucky customers have discovered to their costs.
We've had cars turned over, we've had cars put through fences. Fortunately, no one's ever been injured. That's the main thing. No one's ever been hurt in one of our cars.
So the last and perhaps safest option is to let someone else drive you in a stretch limo. For £50 an hour you get a driver, 2 televisions, video, stereo, cell phone, free champagne and space for up to 10 people.
We've had all the stars, ranging from Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Charlie Sheen, Demi Moore.
None of these options could tempt Sandra away from her Ferrari 348, so there was nothing else but for her to drive it. Sandra didn't find the gears easy to use and was scared by the car's potential performance. It was a world away from her Vauxhall Corsa, but did she enjoy the ride?
That was absolutely brilliant, terrific. I didn't want to stop, I just wanted to keep driving. It's just the ultimate. If you get the chance to do it, do it. It's terrific, absolutely terrific.
Next, we spend a day with a guy lucky enough to look after a very special car collection.
My name's Charles Neil Jones. I'm a race mechanic for Nick Mason from Pink Floyd. Looking after his cars 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or near enough. Nick's got a diverse collection of cars ranging from Porsche 962s right the way through to early cars such as the Aston Martin. His most expensive car is probably the GTA, between £3 and £8 million. He's had it for a good 15-20 years and is certainly one of his pride and joys. I don't really have a general pattern of day-to-day work. Arriving at 9:30, working through till about 7. We usually have an hour and a half lunch break, something like that. We don't have time for young ladies when in the race game. As far as the workload goes, it's so diverse. One day we'll be at Silverstone, the next day at Monaco, testing here, testing there, then back to the office, breaking down the cars, splitting them out, whatever problems we've got, improving the setup. But with these cars we're fairly limited to what we can actually do. Working with the rich and famous is part of the job really. Nick is a pop star, but he's also a great boss to work for. I've just been put on the insurance policy, which is very nice, actually being allowed to drive the cars. Although the only time I've driven them so far is at the race meetings between paddock and pits. I got to drive the 250F around Stowe Circuit at Silverstone, which was just unbelievable. My ideal car, I don't know, the D-Type. It's not a lady's car, no. It's a car that you couldn't really take a lady who appreciates her hairstyle. My career is very well balanced at the moment between my passion for the cars and the workload that I'm doing. It's interesting, it's demanding. With the variety of cars that Nick's got, there's always a challenge and I'm always learning more things. Summing up my position here, I'm working with one of the greatest selection of cars. We go off to the various different events.
And now Mariella sorts the rust from the chrome in our second-hand guide to one of the most coveted sports cars ever.
Everybody loves the MGB. An endearing classic, it still looks good 15 years after production finished in 1980. The MG has respect. It's neither too flash, too fast, too common, too expensive, or too old. That famous octagonal badge might feature on a new car, the MGF, but it was the MGB that ensured it would always have a place in the public's affections. Which is why buying a second-hand one makes a lot of sense. MGs just don't lose their value unless there's a major mechanical problem, and given the popularity of roadsters at the moment, driving around in an original ragtop makes you stand out from the crowd. With prices starting at $2,000 for an average car to $15,000 for cars that have literally not been used, there are MGs for every pocket. You can even pick one up for £500, but it'll need lots of work. A good roadster goes for £5,000 upwards, but whatever you buy, it's worth paying extra for a good car. A fully restored one will be less trouble in years to come. And watch out for nasty colour schemes. Orange and brown were popular in the 70s, but not anymore. Sadly, driving the MG isn't going to blow you away. The most common engine is the same 1800cc as in this car, which was sold between 1967 and 1974. It's 95 horsepower, which sounds good, but in reality the car is really sluggish and pretty noisy, as you can probably hear. But then driving an MG isn't about speed, which is just as well. The MG isn't about handling either. It's not a car that you can whack around corners threading through the gears. A hot hatchback would leave this behind in control and poise. The steering feels disconnected and the MG pitches around when asked to change direction. I wouldn't like to drive this car fast unless it was kitted out with uprated shock absorbers. The good news is that it feels really nice. These chunky switches feel solid and look good. The seats are comfortable and there's plenty of space. So once you've got the heater on and you're all snug, you forget about the rest of the world, the sluggish performance, and you just don't want to get out. With problems of vandalism in inner cities, the MG Roadster is at risk from having its roof slashed. Although parts are readily available, you might feel better about the hardtop GT version. They cost less than the equivalent Roadster, have a larger boot, a small rear seat, and you can still get a full-length fabric sunroof. Many people prefer the look of the GT, and you can't argue with the fact that it's more solid. People have walked away from GTs that have rolled over, so there's a feeling of safety that you don't really get with the Roadster. They're also easier to find, and versions include a rare, super-fast V8 and also an automatic. There is also the MGC. It's a beefed-up model with a 3-litre 6-cylinder engine. They are worth more, but performance is weak, and the handling suffers from the engine's extra weight. Another less desirable option is the MGB rubber bumper model, built to satisfy American safety regulations. Purists say it never looked right.
Mechanically, they can go on forever. You have to make sure the basic checks are done. You have to make sure that the engine's not making any nasty noises and you aren't getting clouds of smoke pouring out the back of it when you let your foot off. but the bodywork is your key area of concern. So you must check out your shell of your MGB very thoroughly. It's a monocoque car, which means the strength has got to come from the body, and the main strength comes from the sill section along the side here. You've got to get underneath and make sure that all the sill and floor pan is sound. To repair the sill sections requires the removal of the front wing, cutting the back wing off here, and grinding off the old parts, welding in new parts, and this can be a very expensive exercise, could be up to £1,000 a side to put right.
Servicing an MG is, for the mechanically minded, very easy. And like on a modern car, the parts are simple to fit, and the engine and mechanicals have good access. For this reason, keeping an MG alive won't break the bank, with a service costing less than £100. And remember, this is a classic car, which means that for under £200 a year fully comp, you can insure it with a special policy. You'll have to keep it garaged and drive less than 6,000 miles a year, but as MGs are often used as summer cars, it's not too much to ask. Old MGs never die. They just get polished, paraded at shows, and polished some more. It's not much of a sports car in standard form, but once the MG bug bites, you never recover. That's it from the car show, I'm afraid, but we'll be back very soon with more tests of the best new cars and bikes, more hot driving tips, more motoring people, and more car news and views. See you then. Good night.